I felt like sticking to a budget was something that was so far out of my reach that whenever I would set one up, I would just stop caring about it or I'd just give up overall. But I know I'm not alone with this. The increasing cost of living means that most people are unable to meet their monthly budgets, and this is for a few reasons. Now, I've narrowed it down to 5, and the last one's probably the most important. But I have a starting template for a beginner's guide on how to budget down in the description, so make sure you check that out. But the first reason that most people can't stick to a budget is, let's be honest, you don't even have one to begin with. Now, I know most people understand what a budget concept is, but when it comes to actually having a budget, they don't have one. And unfortunately, each month they just effectively ballpark wherever money should go. And if you're unsure where your money's even going to begin with, you're bound to lose it. So what this means is you actually need to track your money seriously. Each month you need to understand what money's coming in, and each month you need to understand what money's going out. But you need to get detailed and know exactly where the money's going. So what you need to do is either sit down at the beginning or the end of each month and go over all of your finances, bring up all of your accounts, and make sure the money's going where it needs to go. And it's at these moments where you're able to adjust your budget for next month to catch any wasteful spending, so make sure you take this seriously. And the next reason that we can't budget correctly is that we have this itch to spend money whenever we get it. And a successful budget honestly goes hand in hand with mindful spending. I know it's unfortunate, but effectively what we have to do is learn to resist these urges to spend money when we know it's just going to be wasteful at the end. And my personal urge was Amazon. I used to use it for everything, but what I did is I got rid of the one click, and I would stop buying items the same day, and I would actually have most items sitting in my cart for a few days. And what this would do was make me honestly forget about the items that I just wanted to spend money on, so whenever I come back, I would just delete the things that I didn't need. It's mindful moments like these that keep us on budget. And just because we got paid doesn't mean we need to automatically lose it. We shouldn't be living a champagne lifestyle, especially when we have a Bud Light budget. And the next reason is that most people honestly have unrealistic budgets and they're just spreading themselves too thin. And oftentimes they either overestimate or underestimate themselves. And what I mean by this is I've honestly seen budgets where people have around $5 room to breathe, and that's just unrealistic. And if that's the case, of course this person's gonna blow their budget. But nobody's perfect, and neither is your budget. So to give an example, if you were to spend $125 a month on gas, next month you can't just claim that you're gonna spend $100. I mean, no matter how much you try and kid yourself, when you look back on the previous month, you've never been able to meet that budget line, so why would you go forward with that? Because if that's the case, what you're just going to do is go forward making yourself miserable, because effectively what you're doing is missing your mark, but you had an unrealistic standard to begin with. And you could fix this by going forward with the SMART acronym. So whenever you're planning going forward, make sure it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and has some form of time base around it. Because most of the times when we plan, we actually don't put any of these concepts into effect, and we just get upset when the plan doesn't work. Now, before I get into this next tip, if any of these are helping you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the content. But this one gets everyone, and it's effectively giving up too soon. Now, for some reason, people think that finances is an overnight success, but that's not realistic. It's a long marathon, and unfortunately, you're not going to get money overnight. Treat finances like the story between the tortoise and the hare, but in this case, there's no rabbit. Finances is a long game, and unfortunately, the compound growth is often overlooked. I mean, there's a reason why most of the money is held by the older generation. This is because they've had time on their side. So because of this, they've been able to acquire a majority of it. So if things aren't happening as fast as you want them to, don't get disheartened. Because in the long run for your finances, as long as it's moving up and to the right, it's positive. So don't compare yourself to anyone else on this journey, because comparison is a thief of joy. And if you didn't take any of these other tips away, this is the one that you need to follow, which is making sure you stick to your budget. Regardless of what you've done, none of this matters if you're not disciplined and making sure you're following through. Just like the last step where you can give up too soon, the long game is making sure you're staying disciplined and actually doing the hard work. And one of the biggest problems with a majority of people and their budgets is that they don't actually sit down and go over their finances at least once a month. At most, people actually set up an initial budget, but they never follow through with it. And sitting down and following through with your budget, make sure that you're actually progressing, because if you have no idea where your money's going or where it's been, you'll never be able to track it. But this doesn't need to be all on you. There are plenty of websites and apps like Mint that help you with a budget. And what apps like these do, effectively, they just link all of your bank accounts and they track your spending habits. So effectively, at the end of each month, all you have to do is log in, and there's a better visual interface to see where your money's going. So whether you use a template like the one I left below or an app like this, effectively all these are meant to do is help you on your finance journey. But you know, budgeting goes hand in hand with saving your money and putting it to good use, which I talked about in my recent video where I covered some tips and tricks to saving money. And feel free to leave a comment down below and what topic you want me to cover next.